I do as much research as I possibly can on everything. You know, monthly books make it a little harder. But something like that where we knew we were going to take a long time to do it, yeah, Steve and I watched videos, read books, and everything, and halfway through the thing, we went up to Mount St. Helens 8 Cave and walked around in there. Totally free, it's fun to do. And and you get, you know, it's not even the same kind of cave system because it's a lava tube, and we were doing a limestone cave, but that's the sort of thing where you suddenly, you know, a lot of things become apparent, like, oh, I would really be tripping constantly trying to run through a cave system. And obviously you can't do that in the book, it would slow it down way too much. But other things you can see, like how far away so you can hear someone yelling, or how far away you can see somebody aiming a flashlight down the tunnel. And there's so much stuff. Artists and writers usually get a lot of mileage. You know, what Henry David Thoreau spent one night in jail and pontificated on the plight of the prisoner, like a lifer all the time, for one night.
What comic did he have?
It was it's a little Charlton comic. And that, you know, you can extrapolate a whole lot from just doing a little bit of research and a little bit of travel. And, you know, I think you like to work in real life places you've been all the time.
No, yeah, I'm a big research fiend. You know, like, it's real writers do research, and just because you're writing comic books, you're writing some fantastical, cosmic thing, doesn't mean that there has to be truth, whether it be emotional truth or scientific truth. There has to be. The mistake you don't want to go down is the mistake that. Like you know what I did, like when I did the Clone Saga of Ultimate Spider-Man, I did an insane amount of genetic research because I didn't know how to clone someone. So I read all the stuff. I mean, stuff that I literally was like, it took me forever, man. I just have to keep going back to the. It's not how my brain works, but how do you splice a gene? How do you duplicate? You know, how do you? And I read it and I read it and read it. And though not an ounce of it shows up in the story, because it would have been a terrifyingly boring story to read, as we watched Dr. Octopus work on the genetics of it, I felt I knew what I was doing. I felt whenever I was writing, I felt I knew what I was talking about, and that's what I wanted to do. The same thing with Dr. Voodoo. I was thinking recently when with Dr. Voodoo, I bought every Voodoo book of Howell's, and I studied and I studied and studied. And no, I'm sure, yeah, exactly. And I studied and studied and studied. And I remember when Remender got the gig, I handed him the books, and he went, "You read all this?" And none of it's in the comic. I referenced none of it, but I felt like I knew the origin of Voodoo.
I was wondering why I kept feeling these big pokes all in my body.
Yeah. There you go. And that's why he's on the Hulk. Anyway, so research is insanely important. I mean, I get really annoyed if I have a pet peeve about comic writers in general, is their feeling that they read the Avengers when they were kids, so that's all they need to do. That really annoys the shit out of me. And that there's some name writers who won't even read the books that are coming out now. Like, bare minimum, we should read each other's books so we know what's going on in the world.
I just bought yours today.
What'd you look?
I said I just bought yours today.
Thank you.
I bought yours.
And I get it. But yeah, so I get really kind of peeved about it. You gotta write truth about yourself. You gotta write truth about the world, you know. And if you don't, and I'll tell you the real reason too is my first book I ever did when I was in college was a book called Quivers. Don't look for it, it's horrible. But I was lucky enough to have a publisher for it, and I had my friends doing the photo reference of Amazons shooting arrows. So it was about Amazons going to a sorority, and yeah, it was great. And I had my friends pose, and I took pictures, and I would go draw for the pictures. The second letter I ever got was, "Hey," and it was the nicest letter in the world. That's what kills me. "Hi, just so you know, big fan of independent comics. I'm excited to see what you do next. I'm also an archery expert," and you have the person holding the bow wrong. There's a way that all people have held bows since the invention of archery, and here's a picture of it. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. And I literally, from this day on, everything I go through, I realize whatever I'm writing about, someone in the world is an expert at this. They're probably reading it, and I'm annoying the crap out of them to make sure you get it right.
How many times have you seen, I still see our peers have someone not know that an automatic gun would pop all open when when the magazine's empty, all kinds of stuff. It's like you've only watched it from bad Cinemax movies, and you're working this into your comic book. Oh yeah, and you can't get shit doing that. Whatever. Just go. We all went. Periscope Studio all went to the gun range in Clackamas one day, and went down there and wasted a ton of money on bullets. But everybody came away just with a humongous much more knowledge about how a gun works, what it's like to fire it, how scary loud it is when you're shooting, and everything. You know, you can't beat that sort of stuff. Especially if you're constantly drawing people holding guns, which we are.
Yeah, when you don't like when I was writing Daredevil, I had Matt Murdock make a case, and then your instinct is go something you saw in Law and Order. You know what I mean? And then, no, you have to start and make your own case. Go do your research. And it happened to be that I was a courtroom artist, so I had a lot more knowledge of how the courtroom actually works instead of the a few good men, Tom Cruise courtroom where everyone's yelling at each other. So this is just examples that you would take for granted, but you're just 50 times the better writer for doing it. Throw them the Iron Man.
Watch out!
So, I guess in that vein, what's been the hardest thing for you to translate, like from your head?
You know, mostly that stuff was art-wise. It was hard for me. What I saw, like for me personally, what I saw in my head was Alex Maleev, and what I ended up with was what Torso and Jinx were, which I'm not shitting on, but it was so hard to even get there. Like it was very difficult to create the tools. You know, now if I have the hardest thing to do is to continually make sure that you're writing for the artist's strength. No matter what you think you know or what you want, you've got to be writing for them and not for yourself. That is an ongoing concern. It's not the most difficult. It's actually kind of the most fun thing. But lately, sometimes I'm going through waves where I'm just working with my friends who are all my age. We all came up together. So there's a lot less pressure to insult them or whatever. But right now I'm working with John Romita Jr. and Alan Davis particularly. And you come to the realization that you've bought everything they've ever drawn, and now they're drawing your thing, and you're like, well, what have I done to deserve this, and what can I write that is worth their time? And also they're elder statesmen, and they've seen it all and done it all, and you want their best. You want, first you don't want to annoy them, and then you want their best. And how do you do that in a friendly manner? And that becomes a thing, a real ongoing concern. And so far, particularly John, who is seems to be eternally 30 years old. It's weird. Like I was a kid and he was on Spider-Man. I mean, a little kid and he was on Spider-Man. He still seems to be about my age, and I'm not sure how that works. You know, so he seems easier. Alan is English and much older than us, and you just want it to be worth your while. So just, you know, one's been much easier than the other. They've both been excellent to work with, but it's my nerves that makes it. Like, I don't even, you don't even want to let them know how crazy you are about it, you know. But it's just earning it, that's all.
That is intimidating. First time I wrote a story for Kevin Nolan, I was like, I'm writing for Kevin Nolan, and I just thought, at first I did the thing I do with almost every artist, and I said, Kevin, can you give me a wish list of stuff you don't get to draw a lot, or just something? I always try to ask, because a lot of times artists get pigeonholed because they got notoriety on a certain project, and then everybody keeps sending them that kind of story, and it just drives them crazy, and they so thoroughly want to draw something else. So you've got to check with that and everything. But generally, I've found they always respond to. They can tell. Every artist can tell when you put the work into a script. And when they see that you really, you didn't park through it, you actually did a real job crafting this and figuring out how it was going to break down. They give you that back. They always do. They can smell it a mile away, and they appreciate it when the homework is done.
Yeah, I go. Listen, I write full script because I have to. I don't know how else to do it. But do whatever you want. Just get us there any way you want to get us there. And 95% of the time, they're happy to have the opportunity, but just do exactly what's in the script, you know. But I find, and it's just about a big collaboration.